This is the current world record for the Blighted Holdfast, a popular level amongst speedrunners in the indie game I developed, Bloodthief. As the developer, the absolute best time I can get for this level is 38 seconds, and this runner, Veli, does it in 12. Now, this run didn't just appear out of nowhere. It has been refined and perfected over a period of years. Though the game just launched, for the 2 years prior to that, Bloodthief had a free and open playtest, and in that time, speedrunners completely tore the game apart. For months, Bloodthief was a top game on speedrun.com, and over a 2-year period, Bloodthief speedrunning transformed and evolved in ways that I never could have predicted. Incredible feats of perseverance and dedication.
Oh my god, I just saw that shit!
Discoveries and innovations that immediately shattered records.
Oh yeah.
Runners breaking the game in numerous ways. The rise and fall of heroes from across the globe. The formation of friendships and bonds that will last a lifetime. And controversies that almost killed the community entirely. And perhaps most profoundly, the coming together of a tight-knit group of people seeking to answer one singular question: how can we break this game? As the dev behind this project, I've been watching from the very beginning, and let me tell you, what this community has managed to figure out and pull off is beyond anything I ever could have imagined, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. The absolutely insane history of Bloodthief speedrunning. This video obviously contains spoilers, so if you haven't played the game yet, consider doing so before watching this video. Also, a lot of footage in this video is going to be extremely fuzzy, partially because runners are recording at low resolution, but partially because they're moving so fast the video bitrate can't keep up. So, I apologize in advance for the fuzzy video. Okay, here we go. The Open Bloodthief playtest launched on November 18th, 2023. It launched with 2 levels, the Blighted Holdfast and the Forgotten Wing. It was jank, quirky, and to put it bluntly, pretty bad. But nonetheless, the playtest attracted a small group of gaming and speedrunning enthusiasts, a group I will call the Pioneers. And within a month of the playtest's release, the first ever run was posted on speedrun.com. 57 seconds for Blighted Holdfast any percent. The goal in every Bloodthief level is simple: find the exit door marked with the big red frame and exit through it as quickly as possible. Blighted Holdfast's exit door lies in its central hub, but you first have to infiltrate the castle by sneaking in through this underwater passageway. The final door is locked away by 2 keys. The copper key, which lies at the edge of this perilous platforming section in the right-hand path, and the emerald key, which lies at the top of these tilted turrets riddled with archers. This first run provides a great baseline for how the level is typically executed, without glitches or shortcuts. So let's take a closer look at it. In Bloodthief, the 2 easiest ways to gain speed are by sliding, which increases your speed by about 20%, and air dashing, which dashes you towards enemies. Used in tandem, you can air dash an enemy to gain a bunch of speed and instantly land to a slide to preserve all that speed from the dash. Both sliding and dashing cost blood, which is a quickly depleting resource that speedrunners have to carefully manage. Blood management is particularly important in the Forgotten Wing, and in the first ever inbounds run submitted by Refrigerator, we can see this on full display, with the blood bar always teetering on empty, getting replenished just in the nick of time. This run right here gives us a good idea of what a typical Forgotten Wing run looks like: winding corridors, blood management, and lots of platforming. But neither of these initial records lasted very long, because a few days later, one of the most influential Bloodthief speedrunners of all time entered the scene: Nudie. See, one early characteristic of the Blighted Holdfast was that you had to take this underwater route to get into the castle, which was extremely slow. But what Nudie discovered was that you could parkour up this ledge right here, go out of bounds, and get back inbounds through the back of the castle through the window here, shaving 14 seconds off the run and taking it from a 57-second run to a 43-second run. But Nudie's discoveries didn't stop here. In the Forgotten Wing, there's a long, difficult section where you have to weave through these enemies, make a long jump across this lava pit, wall jump across this gap here, drop down this massive cave, and fight a bunch of enemies in the final room in an epic climactic battle. But Nudie discovers an out-of-bounds shortcut that skips all of this at this part of the level by jumping through this window right here. She then goes out of bounds, shimmies across these out-of-bounds walls right here, and skips directly to the end. And it is with these 2 shortcuts that I believe Nudie kicked off real Bloodthief speedrunning. Over the next month, a Discord server was set up, and Nudie, along with the rest of the Pioneers, began a speedrunning culture centered around openness and collaboration toward a common goal. It was in this time the Pioneers discovered tech such as the circle jump, the bonk jump, wall pogo, drift hopping, stand slide, and sea slide. All little hacky tricks for gaining that extra speed and shaving seconds off your run. For example, they discovered when you perform an air dash to slide combo, as soon as you land an air dash, friction immediately starts to kick in and your speed rapidly starts to reduce from 50, the air dash speed, down to 30, the maximum slide speed. But with the bonk jump, you can air dash an enemy, land to a slide, but the instant you start sliding, you immediately jump again. There is no friction or velocity damping in the air, so by jumping, you preserve almost all that speed from the air dash. We'll see this technique quite a bit in coming runs. And then there's the wall pogo, a wall jumping exploit that runners discovered where you can use the fact that wall jumping at an angle actually increases your speed. So for about a month, Nudie held the record, all the way up until January 17th, 2024, when Camera posted a new world record for the Forgotten Wing. Just an extremely well executed run with very little mistakes, making efficient use of the wall pogo, the bonk jump, and Nudie's shortcut. And because of the efficiency of this run, Camera held this world record for almost 2 months while people looked for new windows into a sub 50 run. One such window was at this part of the Forgotten Wing. As we can see, Camera is pogoing against the wall and gaining a ton of speed, but Camera has to lose all of that speed to re-up on blood before they can dash to this guy up here. The community speculated that whoever could figure out how to save enough blood through this corridor so they didn't have to stop their momentum to re-up on blood would save so much time that it should be enough to achieve sub 50. Meanwhile, Nudie was researching an improvement to her out of bounds route, which required a slow climb up these walls right here. Nudie believed that a different route was possible, one that could bypass the slow climb entirely. But while Nudie researched, Wilzu became the first to achieve sub 50 in the Forgotten Wing. What Wilzu does is very smartly decides not to air dash this second guy right here, sacrificing valuable seconds to keep some even more valuable blood. They then take a wide angle through this room here, making sure to kill this knight right here, another move that costs time but gives Wilzu just enough blood to hop through the corridor and make the dash at the end without having to re-up on blood. This move, along with a well-executed run, granted Wilzu the world record, but in turn opened up a whole new route for the community to explore and optimize. And unfortunately for Wilzu, that world record was beaten only a few days later by none other than Nudie, reclaiming her throne after losing it almost 4 months ago. And she didn't just beat Wilzu's record, she crushed it by a whopping 11 seconds, posting a new world record of 33 seconds. In Nudie's run, she implemented Wilzu's corridor strategy, but she also debuted the new out of bounds route that she'd been researching. She discovered that with a skilled jump, you can jump this entire gap instead of shimmying up the wall, thus saving an entire 10 seconds. In 3 months, the record had been halved from 66 seconds to 33 seconds. This was such an efficient and well executed run that Nudie held this record for 2 months. And here she sat, the world record holder for both levels, the undisputed champion of Bloodthief. So up until this point, most of the action has been focused around the Forgotten Wing, with little action happening in the way of blighted holdfast. But there was one enticing opportunity with that level, one tough nut that the community had yet to crack. This hidden speed boost power-up. See, in Nudie's world record, in this point in the run, she's presented with a fork in the road. She can go right and proceed on with the level, or she can go left and grab the speed boost power-up before the door closes and locks it away. But going left comes at a cost because you have to turn around and make up for the lost time used to get the power-up. Nudie and the rest of the community had determined that the faster route was to just ignore the power-up and continue on. That is, until May 2024, when a new runner, seemingly out of nowhere, used a combination of just raw skill and a new strat to secure both world records in a 2-day span. In Peaks' Blighted Holdfast run, he interestingly does go for the speed boost power-up and manages to be efficient enough to make up for the lost time and secure the first new world record in months. And at about the same time, Peaks also posted a world record for the Forgotten Wing, the world's first sub 30-second run, posting an exceptionally well optimized run, but most notably being the first to use the ground slam effectively to actually shave off time. The ground slam was actually introduced to the game a few months prior in March 2024, but speedrunners hadn't really figured out how to use it in runs yet, and oh baby was this move that Peaks used here just the tip of the iceberg. The ground slam, as we'll soon find out, will become one of the most impactful pieces of Bloodthief speedrunning tech. But for now, the ground slam's true speedrunning potential remained unknown. And unfortunately for Peaks, his records were short-lived, with Zolt Fox soon taking the record for Blighted Holdfast, and Mitchie getting the world's first sub-30 soon after that. Both records simply just out-executing the one prior, not introducing any new strats. But it was also around this time that a new face entered the scene, one that would soon etch their name into the history books as one of the Bloodthief greats. Ulvior. On June 16th, 2024, Ulvior posted a forgotten wing run that would hold the world record for 7 months, the longest held world record in the history of Bloodthief to this day. But what's interesting about this run and Mitchie's world record run for the Blighted Holdfast is that neither introduce any new strategies or tech. They're just perfectly executed runs. They're the type of runs that I think people just look at and go, well, I guess there's no point in me even trying. And so, those records held for a very long time. That is until September 7th, 2024, when Ulvior posted something very strange to speedrun.com. This is the first world record usage of the Slam Vault, a piece of speedrunning tech that would change the speedrunning community forever. Bloodthief has a somewhat quirky mechanic that runners call vault storage. Put simply, Bloodthief allows you to vault over ledges, and the speed at which you vault is determined by the maximum speed you reached while in the air prior to hitting the ledge. So if you're moving fast and bonk yourself on a ledge, you can get all that speed back if you vault over it before touching the ground. Ulvior exploits this in his run by slamming right before the ledge, thus gaining a crazy amount of downward speed. This is the Slam Vault. And in this run, it really only buys Ulvior maybe a few seconds, but as we'll see later in the video, this move will change everything. Coincidentally, about a week after this discovery was made, the Bloodthief playtest was hit with its biggest update since it first opened. 3 new levels: Varu Rooftops, Varu Underbelly, and the Buried Keep. And for the first time in almost a year, there were green pastures ahead for new runners to take a world record. The Varu levels offered runners something unlike anything they'd seen before. Both levels completely open air, which gives players the freedom to invent their own routes through the level, only limited by their creativity and their parkour abilities. Then the Buried Keep, similar to the Blighted Holdfast with its branching paths and hidden shortcuts, but perhaps closer to a puzzle box with its winding, interleaved structures, teasing the player with sections of map that are just out of reach. Back in Varu Underbelly, we see a few early records from fresh faces. Name goes there, Mikey 1337 a few hours later, Kazama a few days after that. In each world record, we see runners climbing the ledge here and jumping this massive gap to cut off a large portion of the map. If we look at an overhead view, we can see a standard route through the level is basically a snake pattern through rows of medieval buildings. Speedrunners discovered that there is a nearly perfect straight line that goes directly from here to this ledge here, cutting off a massive portion. And all of the early runs execute this shortcut. But finally, Ulvior came in on September 25th, 2024 to assert his dominance, craftily using both Slam Vault and Vault Storage to efficiently cross the gap. Over the coming months, we see this route get perfected with a number of new faces coming in, first from Nathan Run in October 24, and then Dalzaya, aka Doodle, a few weeks after that. In Varu Rooftops, we see a similar gold rush occurring. Folks rushing in to secure a quick world record before the community starts to solidify a solid route. TSK, Demon Hyper, Dreadfult,
Oh, yes!
and Soap Gamer, and of course, Ulvior, all submitting world records within a few hours of each other. With Ulvior securing the final spot, a run that takes an early shortcut over the wall here to skip a large portion of the map. The standard route for Varu Rooftops is a spiral that slowly starts to work its way inward, and the shortcut that Ulvior and the other runners are executing here is a climb over a row of buildings to skip to the intersection of the spiral. And now we move to the Buried Keep, which is a 3-part level. Part 1 being this lower level, with a locked door blocking the entrance to Part 2, which requires 2 keys. Part 2 is then a weave through these catwalks as you dodge these brutes that create deadly energy rings as they slam the ground. And then there's Part 3, which starts off with a room fighting this wizard, which shoots little blood giblets out of her face. This room has 2 exits, either a kill door, which opens when all the enemies are dead, or a secret window up above, which you can get to with a perfectly angled air dash. Nestled in the window is a crossbow, which can be used to rocket jump directly to the end of the map. Almost immediately, speedrunners figured out how to skip part 1 of the map with a shortcut titled the Pillar Skip, where runners wall jump off this pillar right here to get to part 2. With this shortcut, we see TSK take an early world record, followed by Dynamat with a highly dynamic route involving 2 slam vaults and a rocket boost using an explosive crossbow to secure a world record run of only 11.8 seconds. Now, this new update didn't just bring 3 new levels. It also made one major change to Blighted Holdfast that completely changed the routing of the level. Let me explain. So Blighted Holdfast's main room is in the shape of a cross, with the center acting as a hub. In the central hub, there is a hidden crossbow way up high, enticing runners with potential rocket jumping capabilities. The final door of the level requires 2 keys to open, with one key being on the left-hand path and the other key being on the right-hand path. Almost immediately, runners determined that it was faster to grab the key and then restart back at the checkpoint after retrieving the key to return back to the center of the hub, because you didn't lose your collected keys after restarting. But after patch 0.2.9, you did lose your keys after restarting, which unfortunately invalidated any run that used the key restart exploit, which was basically all of them. So the leaderboard had to be split, pre 0.2.9 and post 0.2.9. This was a controversial change that was disappointing to a lot of runners. But on the bright side, this presented a new opportunity for runners to figure out new routing, and perhaps more interestingly, brought the central crossbow into the forefront. And the first person to figure out a route that did incorporate the crossbow was none other than Olvior. In this run, we see him do an absolutely massive slam vault to a ground slam to get the crossbow, and then a rocket jump to boost himself across the map. And with this run, Bloodthief had stability on the leaderboards once again, with Olvior holding 3 of the world records, Dalzaya holding the Varu Underbelly world record, and Dynamat holding the Buried Keep world record. And with this, the Wild West era of Bloodthief playtest came to a close, with a new era of Bloodthief looming just around the corner, the official demo release in February 2025. The demo changed everything for Bloodthief speedrunning. For one, it absolutely exploded Bloodthief's popularity, bringing in a massive group of runners looking to make a name for themselves. But it also brought one new feature to the game that changed the speedrunning game in a big way: perks. Up until this point, Bloodthief just had one sword, the Sire's Blade, but the demo introduced 2 new swords, the Sliver of Darkness, which gave you starting blood, and the Weeping Blade, which gave you increased air control. There also was one other difference with the demo, a change so tiny and seemingly insignificant that it's a marvel that it had any impact at all. This line of code right here. This code made the ground slam work more like the air dash, where if you land it directly into a slide, you can preserve that speed gained from the slam. And similar to the bonk jump, if you perform a ground slam to slide and immediately jump out of it, you preserve a crazy amount of forward speed. It took not even 24 hours for speedrunners to discover this change, and sure enough, one day after the demo launch, we see this run by TerraSketch using this technique to secure the world record in Varu rooftops.
Yes! New record! Sub 14!
A day later, we see Mitchie using the Sliver of Darkness to get a much improved start on the Buried Keep. And then a day after that, we see First Try I Swear use the new Slam Slide tech along with the Sliver of Darkness to get a significantly better start in the Varu Underbelly to secure the world record on that level. And the records didn't stop there, because the next day, Rare Beef showcased how the Weeping Blade's air control perk can be used to wall pogo way faster than with the default sword, and use that technique along with the new Slam Slide tech to get a new world record in the Forgotten Wing. 4 long-standing world records shattered in 4 days. ways. This was an extremely exciting time for the community, with new strats and tech being discovered every single day. One such discovery was the arrow parry. Basically, a while back, runners discovered that parrying arrows knocked you back a little bit, and you could parry your own arrows mid-air to redirect your momentum. By mapping both the shoot button and the parry button to scroll wheel, you could get massive speed redirection ability. But though runners knew about this tech for months, runners hadn't discovered how to make it actually useful in a run yet. That is, until February 9th, when Arkaya posted a new world record to the blighted holdfast. This run showcases a brand new start using the Sliver of Darkness, and later in the run uses Ulvior's crossbow route, but switches it up by doing an arrow parry instead of a rocket jump, which shaved off a few more seconds and gave Arkaya the world record. But this was just the tip of the iceberg for the arrow parry. See, the main reason the arrow parry hadn't been useful in many runs up to this point was because there just weren't that many places in the game where you got a crossbow in the first place. Up until this point, there were two places: Ulvior's crossbow route in the Blighted Holdfast, and the window crossbow at the very end of the Buried Keep, the only crossbow in the map. Or is it? Around this time, runners discovered one other secret crossbow location. These floating crossbows way out here, sitting out of bounds in the Buried Keep. Admittedly, I don't even know how they got there. Obviously, a misclick by me during development that I never noticed, even after shipping the demo. But nothing gets by speedrunners. If runners could somehow reach the crossbows, they could arrow parry directly to the exit. The only question was how to get all the way up these sheer cliffs and then make the gap to the crossbows. Well, that brings me to the next Bloodthief speedrunning legend, Jay. On February 17th, 2025, Jay posted a Sliver of Darkness run where he dashes up to the ledge knight, does a quick turn bonk jump to gap himself to the cliff, initiates a ground slam to get extra height over the cliff's edge, and then a slam slide to boost himself over to the crossbow, finishing the run off with a perfectly angled arrow parry directly to the end of the map, securing a new world record of 7.9 seconds. Keep Jay top of mind because we'll be seeing more of him later. This Buried Keep run by Jay is the perfect example of how Bloodthief speedrunning took a very strange turn at this point. A turn where speedrunners became so powerful that they barely even had to use the map at all anymore. In Varu Rooftops, we see TerraSketch improving his time with a shortcut that is just one well-executed slam vault that skips the entire map. In Blighted Holdfast, we see a skip executed by Doorknob that completely bypasses the first half. And in Varu Underbelly, we see this absolutely bonkers skip by Rare Beef, where again he leverages Slam Vault to bypass everything.
11.9.
Moving until the animation's done. You got 11.9? World record chat? World record? That's
And for the first time ever, a chasm was forming in the community. Since the very beginning, there had always been inbounds and out-of-bounds categories on speedrun.com. But because the out-of-bounds runners were getting such absurdly fast times now, inbounds runners had no chance of competing in the in-game leaderboards. And this was starting to cause a fracture in the community. Arguments started to form, long-standing members fighting, and in some cases leaving entirely. To make matters worse, on my end, I was frantically patching maps, focusing on making the demo experience as solid as possible for regular players, and in doing so, I did some kind of annoying things. In the Varu Underbelly, someone posted a bug report that you could easily jump over the castle and skip the final combat room. This wasn't a speedrun strat, however, this made the hex metal far too easy to get, so I patched it by blocking the exit to the end of the level, without even realizing that this broke Rare Beef's world record. And this upset a lot of people. To some, it looked like I was playing favorites in the speedrunning community, prioritizing the inbounds routers. To some, it looked like I didn't like out-of-bounds runs. And to many, it just looked like I wasn't a very careful developer, and these people were the right ones. Well, no matter, as I've mentioned in the past, my ego is long gone, so I simply implemented another change that made that route possible again, and still managed to block the trivial hex metal route, but the damage had already been done. A few long-standing members left the community, and some great runners moved on to other things. With that said, the majority of the community remained strong and kept going with new world records. On February 15th, expert Marcus entered the Varu underbelly scene with a run that leveraged an extremely strange and rare bug. If you look closely, you can see he is somehow able to initiate a ledge climb right at the corner here, even though there is no ledge in sight.
Getting 100k a year one time.
Oh my god, I just saw that shit.
Then on February 21st, Banjo Bear pulled off a once-in-a-lifetime run that was so tick perfect and precise, the community basically determined it was unbeatable, locking in a 6-second world record in the Varu underbelly. Unfortunately for expert Marcus and Banjo Bear, this run benefited from a bug that was negatively impacting a lot of regular players. This bug made it so sometimes, while wall running on a normal wall, your character would initiate a ledge climb for no apparent reason. In the case for Banjo, it worked to his benefit, but unlike the other patch where there was a solution that worked for both speedrunners and regular players, this one absolutely had to be patched. And when the patch ultimately came, the leaderboard was split, opening the door for new runners to take the spot, which happened on April 15th when Jay submitted a new world record. Technically slower than Banjo's route, but the new fastest time post-impossible ledge patch. Over on the Varu rooftops, a route was forming that enticed many speedrunners for being extremely short but highly technical. It started off with a difficult to pull off slam vault right at the beginning, followed by a perfectly timed slam at exactly the right moment to drop into this tunnel here, followed by this section, which is just a winding path through a tunnel to get to the end. For the early days after the demo release, many new faces came into the leaderboard as this route got perfected. Sonic Mag took the record on February 7th, followed by Gribovar 30 minutes later, and then Rossum Gamer, followed by Jetos, all in the same day. The final portion of the route proved to be extremely technical with a lot of room for optimization, so new records just kept coming in. Jay entered the mix on February 20th, followed by Banjo Bear 2 hours after that. Banjo held the record for about a month at this point, optimizing his own time and submitting a few more records throughout February and March until March 16th when he submitted this run. A nearly perfect run with an incredibly executed ending to get a time of 7.483 seconds and the world record. Let's run this back in slow motion. What we see here is Banjo executing a series of 6 consecutive slam slides, each one turning at a perfect 90-degree angle so as to not hit a wall and lose speed. Utilizing the slam slides to change direction on a dime, but performing a tick-perfect jump out of the slam slide so as to not lose any speed. He does this 6 times in a row with perfect timing. Once again, Banjo had gotten a run that seemed unbeatable, but this time there were no bugs helping him out, just pure execution. And at this point, an obvious rivalry was starting to form between Jay and Banjo Bear, with Jay stealing Banjo Bear's throne in Varu Underbelly after Banjo's impossible ledge run got patched and Banjo Bear stealing Jay's world record with the run in Varu Rooftop. But the rivalry runs even deeper, for on February 19th, Banjo Bear took Jay's world record in Buried Keep with a new route up the cliff face to get to the crossbow.
Yo. I got it.
And with Jay holding the records in Blighted Holdfast and Forgotten Wing, every level I've talked about in this video thus far, the world record was held by either Jay or Banjo. And in the coming weeks, Jay would do something truly incredible. On March 18th, 2025, Jay took back the world record for the Buried Keep with another new route where he creatively bounces one of these knights up in the air and uses the aerial knight to dash up the cliff face even faster than Banjo could.
Oh yeah.
And then, about a month after that, Jay did the impossible. He beat Banjo's seemingly unbeatable Varu Rooftops run by just over 100 milliseconds, out-perfecting the perfect run. And with that run, along with 2 more world record runs in the Doom Chapel level and the Sandbox level,
Yes! Oh my god.
Jay had officially swept the leaderboards. This is the first time that this had been done since Nudie did it way back in March 2024, and Jay did it with far more competitors and 7 levels instead of 2. This was an incredible moment, not just for Jay, but for the community, a cause for celebration. Yes, this achievement belongs to Jay, but this was a milestone for the community, where the pinnacle of Bloodthief speedrunning had been reached. This was of course Jay's execution, but Jay stood on the shoulders of giants, of years of research, sweat, perseverance, and discovery. And this is where the speedrunning documentary comes to a close. Jay's competitors finally conceded defeat, and Bloodthief speedrunning came to an end. Just kidding. What if I told you today Jay doesn't have any world records. So Jay's sweep happened in April 2025 and the full game released in September 2025, but between those two dates a lot of activity was still happening and newcomers were still entering the scene, taking records. Motion, a longtime member of the community, got his first world record on May 15th in the Forgotten Wing, a 20 millisecond improvement over Jay's world record. About a week later, Temmie overtook Jay with her first world record in the Varu Underbelly. But Jay didn't go down without a fight, because he took back both world records soon after. But they didn't last long. In the coming months, both Temmie and Motion secured 2 new world records in the Varu Underbelly, and over in the Forgotten Wing, one other newcomer entered the scene. The final Blood Thief legend that I'll be talking about in this video, Veli. Veli had been playing Blood Thief since the demo released in February 2025, but he wasn't active in the speedrunning community. He simply liked playing the game on his own, and as time went on, he found himself working his way up the ranks. On March 6, 2025, Veli joined the speedrunning Discord, now using the Discord username Jacob, but he remained inactive, not commenting or interacting with anyone. Over the next few months, the community grew and thrived. Jay got his sweep, and Veli continued to work in the shadows, quietly climbing his way up on the leaderboards. By June 2025, 4 months after Veli discovered Blood Thief, Veli was a top contender in every leaderboard in the game. His name was now impossible to ignore. Who is this guy? On June 9th, 2025, Jay gave Veli a little wave. Was this a friendly wave, or was this Jay's way of telling Veli, I see you coming for me, buddy? I'm not sure, but Veli waved back. Not just with an emoji, which was his first message he ever posted on the speedrunning server, but with a world record run posted a week later. His first world record posted for the Forgotten Wing. But what's crazy about this is that the very next day, Veli posted another world record for the Blinded Holdfast, and another world record in the Varu rooftops. 3 world records in 2 days. And at this point, Veli made his intentions clear on the Discord. I am coming for you. A message directed at Jay. On August 19th, Veli took the top spot on the Varu Underbelly. In the Forgotten Wing, Joey and Frankie, a prominent inbounds runner, got his first any percent world record, only to be overtaken once again by Veli. And finally, in the Buried Keep, Veli overtook Motion for the world record. And that just about brings us to the 1.0 launch of Blood Thief, which brought a lot of changes to the game. 36 levels in total and 20 weapons. But one thing stayed the same post-launch. Veli continued to dominate at an unprecedented level. In fact, he recently achieved another incredible Blood Thief milestone, a full leaderboard sweep, just like Jay did back in April 2025, but this time with 36 levels instead of 7. And I'd love to talk about every single one of these, but their history is still so young, so I'm holding off for now. I'm so curious to see what the future of Blood Thief speedrunning holds. Will we see OG legends like Nudie and Ulvior or Jay come back to take the throne? Or maybe the next Veli is quietly grinding away unknown to the community. Will we see any of the custom user maps gain popularity amongst speedrunners? Will we see new categories gain popularity? For example, the full game run, offering a whole new set of dynamics to speedrunning. Moves like Banjo's perfect rooftops ending become so much more risky since performing that consistently would be near impossible. And certain weapons that have dominated the leaderboards now have a cost associated with them because you now have to go out of your way to unlock a weapon over the course of your run. Just 7 days ago, Rakai posted the first ever full game Sire's Blade run on speedrun.com, a 22-minute run. Just to put that in perspective, the full game takes an average player about 5 hours to beat. I believe there is so much more to explore with the full game of Blood Thief, and I hope more runners jump in to take a stab at it. And to kick things off, I'm hosting a new speedrunning competition with the biggest prize pool yet. Details will be in my Discord server. You can check the link in the description. Also, if you're interested in picking up the game, it's 25% off right now for the Steam Winter Sale, so pick it up now while it's on discount. One last thing, I just want to say thank you to the Blood Thief speedrunning community, both for helping me make this video with your extremely solid documentation, both on the Discord server and speedrun.com, but also just for playing my game. Watching you completely break break it has been an absolute blast. This video obviously focused primarily on Bloodthief pre-release, and I didn't even talk about the any percent inbounds category, which obviously has a ton of activity as well. So hopefully one day we can have a part 2 speedrunning video, but until then, happy speedrunning.